Have a piece. I mean, if I'm getting I offer this to everybody while you're gone. Salt rock, what, Quick Mart or Chevron or whatever it is, it's fresh.
Okay, we'll commence again. Once again now, we have entered at this point into exhibit. It's titled Lincoln County Counseling Collaborative. Okay. Now, you want to deal with that one, Ms. Hornbuckle, and then exhibit 2 will be entered, or you want us to go ahead and show the contract with exhibit 2 and then deal with them both?
I'll deal with this one.
Okay, so at this point, we're just on exhibit 1, the collaborative, counseling collaborative. Okay.
Ms. Baumgartner, where did you receive this document?
At one of our monthly counseling meetings.
Do you remember which one? Was it beginning of the year, middle of the year?
I would say it was November.
And who, they just handed this to all the counselors? And
Yeah, we usually get different types of paperwork when we're there and discuss different things. We didn't really go over that, we just got that.
so there's no discussion about that. Okay, was there discussion of anyone's done this?
It's just kind of, it's not come up as a topic of our session, but they kind of just indirectly talked about Jessica's funding and they're kind of being concerned about if she was going to have that same position next year.
So they indicated that Ms. Fry was the only one that was hired by agreement?
Yes.
Can we stop this time, please?
Yes. People, did they indicate that Ms. Fry was the only one that was covered by a grant?
Yes,
And that her grant would be ending when?
at the end of the school year.
That's all I have for.
Okay, I just have to make a motion at this point that the document really should not be considered, it's irrelevant to the proceedings. It was dated December of 2014. It's prepared by an entity named JB and Associates. So it is not prepared by anyone having anything to do with these proceedings or the board. No one's here to authenticate the document. No one's here to really explain anything about the document. And it's dated prior to the beginning of personnel season. So I'm not sure that a document dated from June 2014 to November 2014 should really be considered relevant to this proceeding.
I have to object to that. They're handing this out to the employees in the county, and as she said, it was dated prior to personnel season, but it was dated when Ms. Baumgartner was hired. Therefore, she took this under advisement and that this was how she was being paid. I think it's very relevant to this proceedings. I think it's very relevant to the fact that she relied on this before taking this position.
Okay, what's the date of employment contract? When was that signed?
19th day of November is the date.
And the date of this document is December 2014?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's June 14th through December.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me provide, please. Okay, let me ask Mrs. Baumgartner a question. You received this, where were you when you received this?
At we have our council meetings here.
You had a counseling meeting here, was it here at the Board of Education office?
Yes, sir.
And what time of the year did that occur?
That's what I was saying. I thought it was our November meeting. It possibly was our December meeting.
November or December of this past year, you received this at a meeting here among all counselors?
Right. We all received one.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to allow this to be admitted. I think since it was at a counseling session, and also at the end of the first paragraph, it says the Lincoln County Collaborative Counselor roster for the 2014 school year is as follows, and that's the school year end. So I'm going to allow this to be entered.
For what purpose?
For the purpose, I'll allow Ms. Hornbuckle to say, but essentially my understanding is to show the funding of how that funding was done.
Okay. You're not admitting it for the purpose of showing this document relied on before the job was taken?
No.
Just the fact that it was provided to all counselors, and it seems to be effective this whole school year. Ms. Hornbuckle.
Oh, now I'd like to go to, the contract exhibit number 2.
Anything further from you, Ms. Tyree, about this document?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And nothing from you either, Mrs. Hornbuckle?
No.
Okay. Okay, now we'll refer to Exhibit 2, and that's the contract.
you all had a chance to look at the contract? Okay. Ms. Bumgarner, you signed this contract on the 19th of November, we decided. Was there anywhere in the contract that stated you were funded by a grant?
No.
Did you ask anyone if you were funded by a grant?
Yes.
Who did you ask?
That day I asked Ms. Berge when I signed it, just because I was saying, is this a grant? Well, I might not even, I said, is this a permanent position, or, you know, kind of explaining it. And she said, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And I might not have said the word grant, but I said, is this a permanent position? And she said, yeah, this is just something that you have to do every year.
And there's nowhere on this documentation that states that this is a grant-funded position?
No.
Before taking a position here in Lincoln County, did you leave a full-time position for this job?
Yes.
Did you leave insurance at your previous employer for this job?
Yes.
Did you switch over your insurance to the Lincoln County's insurance for this job?
Yes.
Did you switch over your son's insurance as well?
Yes.
And I know you understand that no job is permanent, that any job can be cut at any time, but would you have taken this job had you known that at the end of the year it was going to end?
No.
That's all I have.
Just a few questions for Ms. Bumgarner, and since we're talking about the contract and we're sitting beside each other, I'll just ask her to look at the contract with me. Can you tell us read to us the title of the contract?
Teacher's probationary contract of employment.
Okay, now I'm going to direct you down towards the middle of the contract where I have a little blue ink mark. Can you read that sentence for us?
This is a probationary contract for employment commencing on the 22nd day of October 2014 for a one-year period for an annual employment term of 153 days.
Okay, now I'm going to direct your attention to the last page, and it would be subsection L. Can you read that sentence for us, please?
This contract is not a continuing contract and shall be applicable only to a person not presently holding a continuing contract with this board.
I don't think I have any further questions right now for Ms. Bumgarner.
Just have one rebuttal. You said you asked another person why you had to sign the contract. Because you were first of all concerned about the pay, but they clarified that. But did you ask them specifically about this being a one-year contract, and what were you told?
That it's just something that everybody has to do every year until you've been here. I think they told me after you've been here 3 years, possibly they said 5, that you don't have to sign a contract. But it's something everybody has to do annually.
They misrepresented to you that this was a one-year contract and that your job was not permanent. Is that correct?
I was not told it was permanent yet. I wasn't.
Anything further? Ms. Tyson?
Nothing further.
Okay. Do you have any, you're not going to have any other witnesses, or are you going to ask Ms. Gandy to come back? Okay, all right, I'm just trying to see the procedure. Okay, Mr. Baker has spoken.
Did you read your contract before you signed it?
Yes.
How long did you have the contract prior to signing it?
Like I said earlier, I think I got it on like a Friday afternoon in the mail, and then I came in, I would have to look back at the calendar to see what day. I came into my earliest convenience when I could get out of school. So it was probably that following week.
Okay. So you had it at least 3 days, got it on a Friday, had it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at least until Monday, 4 days? I just want to clarify, this Lincoln County Counseling Collaborative document, it's not your contention that this was something that was available to you prior to the time you signed your contract, is it?
No.
It's just something that was something you got after the fact. Did you, when did you pull this out to look at it to determine how your position was funded?
Well, I noticed it the day we got it, because like I said, it wasn't a topic per se that we were talking about. It was just something in conversation they were talking about Jessica being grant funded. So I looked at it today, I got it.
What position did you leave to take this position?
The case manager at NECO.
You were not a school board employee at that point in time? Did you have the kind of benefits you had as a school board employee?
Yes.
What was your pay there? Is it comparable, less, more?
It was less.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
I have one.
Mr. Curry.
Birdie or Mrs. Lewis wants to, all probationary employees fill out a contract similar to this?
Yes.
1 year?
Yes.
Renew them every year?
Yes.
I guess I'd have a lot of follow-up to that. So did you explain to us how a continuing contract differs from a probationary contract as far as the time frame?
Upon the fourth hire, after 3 probationary years, if there aren't any reasons to not employ the person, they get a continuing contract. But the continuing contract still does not guarantee that that position would be cut during personnel season.
Am I correct in understanding then that any probationary employee has to complete a contract annually until they receive a continuing contract?
Correct.
Just something.
I just wanted to follow up on what Mr. Curry asked, and actually his statement after he asked you the question, make sure we're all on the same page. If an employee is a probationary employee and they sign a contract for 1 year, they have to sign the same or similar contract each year that they're re-employed, is that correct?
Correct.
And a decision is made each year as to whether that contract will be renewed by you, by your office staff, by whomever makes a decision as to whether that person's position is needed or funding is available for it, correct?
Correct.
I have a question for Bertie. Bertie, going back to this document that you received, have you seen it? You have it here?
This is the first
As you-
one I've ever seen.
Okay, but as you look down those various counseling positions there, are there, and they, well, the first, all except the last one says board. Are any of those others where it says board also grant funded?
I can't remove it.
Okay.
Because it's not picking up that
Okay,
good.
that's good.
And you guys too need to speak up a little bit more because you're farther away also.
Yes, ma'am, we'll try.
Thank you.
Okay, Bertie, on page 4 of the counseling document, every one of those under the funding category has board, except for the last one, which has Western Department of Education. Are any of those others that are say board grant funded, or is it just the first one that says Ranger Elementary with Ms. Baumgartner's name?
Well, actually, that she has a split school. Well, no, let me just explain it like this. Half her position was funded through the grant, okay? So it doesn't really matter where she was located at, it was just that position was funded half and half.
I'm just wondering, of the other counselors listed here, when it says board funded, are they being funded through the school aid formula, or are some of those possibly
You know
also
what?
grant funded?
They are not, but who knows where this came from, or
Well,
where they got that information.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to understand.
No,
I understand that you're not authenticating this document.
Right, most
But I'm just trying to see if you would happen to know, just by your nature
Yeah, I would know.
of your job, whether of any of these other positions were funded by a grant or some other source other than
They
the school
were
aid
not,
formula.
with the
Okay.
exception of Ms. Jessica.
And only half of it was?
No, now Jessica, the last one, Jessica Fromm, she's funded through the innovation grant.
Right.
She's a county employee, and, you know, I'm surprised that someone
Okay.
listed it as it was.
So you even question the.
Yeah, just and it's just the terminology that they use, it doesn't kind of blend in with how we operate. She's a school board employee.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Okay.
Anything else of Bertie by anyone? Ms. Baum?
I do, so she is not grant funded?
She is grant funded, but she's a board employee.
But
She's
she
not,
is grant funded.
she's funded through Innovation Zone,
That's all.
but she's a Lincoln County board employee.
Okay.
I'm confused.
Okay.
Thank you. She's
Well-
grant funded. This is the.
She is grant
She is
funded.
grant funded. Is she the only counselor that's grant funded?
No, Ms. Baumgartner's position is.
Is she the only counselor listed on here, besides Ms. Baumgartner, who didn't know she was grant funded? And no one else knew she was grant funded, that's grant funded?
Well, we knew. We all knew. Whoever just did this document didn't get the information.
No.
I think, once again, just to clarify, they're taking exception with the document as to who prepared it, and it's authenticity. Thank you, Bertie. Okay.
I've got one more
Go ahead,
question.
Mr. Curry.
Who handed the document to you?
It was just passed out by the counselors. so I'm not sure. Jessica Fry normally is who hands us all of our documents, so I don't know where
Did
she
she
got
conduct
it
the
from.
meeting?
Bill Linville was over us, but since I've been there, his position's changed, so she's kind of been running the meetings, like all the counselors have just kind of been running, but.
Thank you.
Can I add a comment?
You may add a comment.
You know, this is just something that most people would not know. It's kind of a, you know, a finance issue. And, you know, it's kind of an unusual situation because it was kind of leftover money. So whoever prepared this document may have even forgot that there was the leftover money from that grant that was funding a position. And just failed to ask anyone here at the central office for the.
Or is it also possible they didn't know how it was funded?
Right, that's what I'm saying. They just didn't know.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Gandy?
Okay.
Ms. Gandy, one more. Anything from you, Leslie?
We'll just make some closing comments.
Okay,
No
I mean,
more
nothing
witnesses.
for Birdie. Okay,
No.
all right. All right. Now, any further witnesses or questions you might have as part of your presentation?
I don't wanna leave them.
Not your closing now, but your.
Yes, I have one question for Ms. Lucas.
Okay.
You had said that Ms. Fry is it Ms. Fry that's gonna cover West Hamlin?
Yes.
Okay, and she's grant funded? Or Ranger? She is grant funded?
She is grant funded.
Under a dropout prevention grant? So that's for, I'm sorry, is the dropout prevention grant, is that for starting from kindergarten on up to?
Yes.
High school? Okay, I didn't understand, it was just for high school students, where you started?
No, it's
very
it's
low.
for-
I have a couple more questions for Ms. Baumgartner, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Baker had asked you if you had left a position that paid you more or less, and you said it was less. How far do you travel every day to come here?
I travel an hour when I go to Ranger, and I travel 35 minutes to West Hamlin,
One way?
one way.
And did you have to purchase a new vehicle because of the wear and tear of coming back and forth here?
Yes, I purchased a new vehicle.
And this was partly reliant on the fact that you thought you would be here another year, is
Yes.
that correct? That's all.
All right, well, let's go into the final phase in our closing. Ms. Tyree.
Okay.
I would just say, board members, anything of either party before we go?
Do you get paid mileage for driving to Ranger? No.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
Tyree.
All right, just a few things. I want to make sure that everybody understands and we're all on the same page about how this works. There's three things that you have at work here. One, the school law in West Virginia does not permit you to post positions that are for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And the reason why is there's no guarantee about those positions. Every position that is posted can be terminated at any time. There could be a lack of children, a lack of an excess levy, I mean, there could just be numerous things that happen. So you are not permitted under school law of West Virginia to say, this position's for 5 years. Now, oftentimes, if you have a grant, you might know how many years that it might be available, but typically positions are not posted to say a specific year. As a personnel director, I have had to cut positions of 22-year tenured staff people who worked in the same elementary school for 22 years as a certified teacher. That has nothing to do with anything. I'm sure that person thought that they were going to continue to have this job because they've had it for 22 years. That's not how it works. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that under a probationary contract, you know, this is a good telling document as to what type of security a probationary employee has in their employment. Probationary employee can just be terminated at the end of their one-year contract if they don't feel like the job has been acceptable for many other reasons. So we read into the record the things, several things from this document that make it clear that a probationary employment contract is only for 1 year. And that continues, as Ms. Lucas said, for 3 years. You have to do continuing contracts. This was her first contract. It's very, very clear from this document that even if we weren't proceeding in RIFs and transfers, she could be terminated at the end of the year because of the language in the contract. And the third thing is that it doesn't matter whether someone is grant funded, whether they're employed by the board, regardless of any of those things, if the money is no longer there, the position has to be cut, and that's the problem you have here. The grant is no longer available, so bottom line is unless you're going to pay them the $57,000, $60,000, what have you, out of your pocket, so to speak, as a board, you can't employ this person any longer in this position. And that could also happen to a 22-year tenured teacher who's taught first grade in one of your schools for 22 years. So there is no security when it comes to cutting positions. No one's guaranteed their job the next day, whether it's grant funded, board funded, or regardless. So those are just the things that are all working together. But I don't believe that when you read a probationary contract, you have any thought whatsoever that your job is guaranteed forever. I don't have any other comments.
Okay. Ms. Horner?
Yes, Council spoke that no one is guaranteed their job, but if someone has been working for 20, 30, 40 years, they're not guaranteed their job, but they are guaranteed a job. She talked about the positions, they can't say how long it's gonna be, but a position should inform somebody if it is grant funded, and at least if it is grant funded. So they will know that it plays an important role in whether or not that person will take that position and whether or not that person will take position somewhere else. As for the contract, Ms. Baumgartner did ask for clarification from 2 different individuals. She did not consult counsel prior to signing the contract, and I don't think she'll ever do that again, but she did learn, but she did ask for clarification and was told that it would be longer than 1 year. And it definitely matters whether or not it's grant funded. She did not know that this grant would be ending at the end of this year. She unjustly relied on the representations of several people before signing her contract and believed that she would have this position after this year.
Members of the board, do you have any questions of either party? All right, well, I think everything's been done here. If there's no further things to do, this hearing is concluded. And the board, you'll be notified of the board's decision in due course. Thank you all.
Nice meeting you.